for your purposes, you've worked in the same industry for the last decade, right? But as an employee coming in at the ground floor in sales and then working your way up to quitting your job, starting your own, right? Getting bought 9 months later and now being an executive in that company and at times the CEO of that company.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm in a very niche area of the IT staffing industry. But yeah, I've been doing this since 2015. Coming up, selling this as just a sales executive, I think was a really unique opportunity to like really master something that hadn't really been on the market yet before.
Well, I try to explain to people like what it is that you do.
Yeah.
And even though I've been an investor in the company, I have a hard time articulating frequently what you do in recruiting and why it's different from what currently exists out there. Like, you've told people this 1,000 times. What's the easiest way to explain to someone who's never heard of what you do?
Yeah.
And explain and they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Well, I guess I would just say at the highest level, if you think of the skills gap that exists in every industry, but we all intuitively know that technology is moving so fast, way faster than many other industries. And there's breakthroughs that are being made in our capabilities. So because of that, there's this huge growing gap between what students actually learn in school in a degree program that was thought of 10 years ago, and then the actual tools and skills that people need them to have exposure to today to actually join the workforce and make an impact.
Yeah.
And so all we're doing is bridging that gap between what they learn in school and the tools and skills they need to be successful on the job. And so it kind of looks like the last semester of training. We just hire talent up front, we train them on all the stuff they're missing, and then we place them into their careers with big companies that need to hire a lot of people at scale.
Yeah. So it's a good way to say it. The last semester of college.
Yeah.
Is what you guys are.
Last mile of training.
You employ them.
We're like a finishing school. We're a finishing school. Yeah. Go get all the theory and all the stuff you need and come to us for that finishing, that hands-on skill set that's going to allow you to enter the workforce and actually start working from day one instead of having to be bewildered and sit there and try to learn from others.
Yeah.
So,
I think about if I'm like a candidate coming out of school, I've got a computer engineering degree or a computer science degree, and my dream is to work at a Fortune 100 company. I want to work at Apple, Google, Bank of America, JP Morgan, like the big hitters in the space.
Yeah.
I know I can't just go apply for that job and get it.
Where do you start? Yeah.
You know, like people say you got to know someone to get in. Like, well, who? Like, do I just apply on their website?
What do you have to know?
But I know it's from the model that you deploy. That's the benefit of the candidates is that like you already have that relationship with those Fortune 100. You can get them in. You can get them an interview, and they're buying them by the batch, 30, 40 people at a time, right?
Yeah. We can get you past the point of actually having your application looked at.
Yeah.
And to the point where there's a level of expectation that the people that we send are actually trained, tested, proven. So therefore you enter an interview and it's not, hey, I see this on your resume, tell me about it. It's, hey, let's look at your project that I know you did already to complete this program.
Yeah.
And tell me more about this project. Why'd you do it this way? What are the other ways you could have done it? What concerns do you have about the security of this application? That kind of stuff. So it's a much more tangible way to both get hired and to hire technical talent at the junior level. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. So I try not to get too deep into the minutia of it because I can talk for hours about the ins and outs of exactly what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we're just seeing a gap in the market of companies not being able to invest in junior talent the way they used to.
Yeah.
And junior talent having a hard time, therefore, being able to get the jobs with these companies who still have a high standard. And so we just hire the talent, raise them to the standard they need to be at in order to actually get the job.
Yeah.
And then we've already made that connection for them. So it just streamlines the entire process. Kind of like your business. We're a one-stop shop.
Yeah. But benefits all around for both the candidates and for the companies to have the pipeline of entry-level talent too.
And that's I think any good business it just has to be a win for everyone involved. In
Yeah.
our case, our inventory are people,
Yeah.
right? And our customers are companies. So we're winning because we're able to go ahead and close this gap, and we make money
Yeah.
by providing them with the talent that they're seeking.
Give me the back of the napkin math on this, because I asked everyone
Yeah.
the same question. Tell me what it looks like specifically for you to make $1 million of revenue in your industry.
Yeah.
Like, what has
Yeah.
to be true for you to make $1 million
Yeah.
in your industry?
So for us, we're very top line heavy in our industry because we're dealing with professional services. So everyone that we bill out to our customers has an hourly bill rate, and there's 2,000 working hours in a year, right? So if we're billing an average of $70 an hour for someone to be on site for 2,000 hours, that's like 140K right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So what's that? 7, 8 people?
Yeah.
That's $1 million in revenue for us.
8 people gets you to $1 million in revenue. And that's
Yeah.
just finding 8 college grads,
Yeah.
training them up, staffing them out with a big company, and you get $1 million of revenue. Now, in this case, of course, a lot of that money is going to go to the candidate because you're
We're
paying their salary
them,
for
and we're
them and their
investing in
benefits.
their training, their benefits,
Yeah.
all the above. We pay them to relocate, right? We're covering all of that stuff. So we have a lot of expenses. And so when you actually look at our financials, our gross margins are a lot lower than you would typically expect for
Yeah.
another service.
Because their salary is part of your cost of goods sold.
It is.
So,
Yeah.
which is huge. And that
Right.
you're making 70K, so that's 35 an hour right there is already going to
Yeah.
half of your revenue is going to pay the salary to quote unquote make the product.
Right.
And then you also have to,
We still have to develop them too.
you got to
right?
develop them.
So
yeah.
if you look at our COGS, I mean, it's easily, I mean, I think we're actually pushing our gross margin now to like 37%-ish.
yeah.
We want to get to 40, and that's only because we've streamlined our whole delivery process.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just
there's
crazy
a lot
that,
of cost
like,
just developing it.
for a product guy like me, who's used to gross margins at 90% plus, to hear that you're at like in the 30s on gross margin, but yet
Is this whole
if
shrimp
you're
edible?
successful, I don't know. But if you're successful in yours, you can build $1 billion company. Whereas if I'm successful in my product company, the bar is so much higher for me to become a billionaire in products. It's probably
Yeah.
easier to become a millionaire potentially because the bar is a little bit lower to make that true.
Yeah.
But gross margins where they are, like when you build a professional services company, like there's safety and security there, you've built systems, you're working
Right.
with really big clients who aren't just gonna fire you, they're on long-term contracts with them.
Yeah.
It's a safe business and very investable.
Yeah, and we only work with basically the Fortune 500, so our clients are going to pay us, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the risk that a lot of small businesses have, where you're working with other small businesses
Yeah.
who may not have the money to pay you 3 months after you sign the contract.
Yeah.
So that gives us some flexibility in terms of how we finance the business,
Okay.
where we get our funding from. Because when we get an invoice, there are plenty of companies who are willing to give us 90% of that invoice immediately
That's crazy.
because they know
Yeah.
that that bill's going to get paid.
So
right?
you just landing a client gives you revenue if you wanted it. Just having the client.
Well, what do you mean when you ask that?
Well, you don't have to necessarily deliver on all your obligations on day one to get paid. You can place someone in the company and just based on the hours that you know they're going to work,
Yeah.
someone else will give you that invoice factoring money up
Yeah.
front and
Well,
allow
so-
your cash flow to be better.
That's, I think, where we're going to get to. Where we are today is working in the past. So they've already worked 30 hours.
Okay.
We're now billing the customer. The customer is not going to pay us for 30 days or maybe 60 days.
Okay.
Right? So we know that they're good for it. And so you can get some financing more quickly. So instead of someone working a month and then waiting a month to get paid, they can work a month, we can get paid now, so
Yeah.
we can cover our expenses and actually realize some of our bottom line as well.
Yeah.
So it's but I think the thing that is, our business is really expensive to get into. Obviously, we're paying all these salaries up front.
Yeah.
It's a deterrent to a lot of other companies to get into our space who are more peripherally already in the staffing space, but they
Yeah.
don't want to deal with a business that has the kind of overhead that we have.
Like
So
your
for that
average
reason-
recruiting company doesn't have the
No.
money to jump in, hire people up front. They want to
No.
get paid just for doing the service.
They're only
you
going
know?
to focus on paying the people that are already placed, who are making
Yeah.
money for them. So it's a different world. For that reason, we don't have a lot of competition. So it's been an interesting journey for sure, going from sales to sales leadership. One of the things that's happened, obviously, in starting our own company is I always had this concern earlier on in my career where I thought people are only ever going to see me as a salesperson.
Yeah.
But now when people meet me, we started this company, almost 3 years ago, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
And so people see me today as an entrepreneur or as an executive, depending on which role I'm kind of playing that day. And so when I'm introduced to people, when they meet me today as the CEO of HTD Talent, in their mind, they put me in the executive bucket.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when I was, a sales executive,
He's our account executive.
they put me in the sales bucket.
Yeah.
Right? And you can just see the difference in terms of how people treat you just based on your title. That's before we even talk about the success level of the company, how much revenue we've done,
Yep.
the impact that we're making, are we even doing a good job of it?
Yeah.
But people immediately put you in that executive bucket. It's like, oh, I'm on par with this person now. So,
Which is, it's crazy when you like break it down like that. If there's one thing that people could do to elevate their status in the eyes of others, it would be to become the CEO of their own company. Because now another CEO meets you, and even if you have a small business that does 100K a year, you're being introduced as, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. Or someone introducing you to that person as, hey, he's got his own company, he's the CEO of. And you can never get the image out of your mind if you're introduced to me as an account executive or a sales executive, where I say, oh, you're a sales guy. Okay. As far as the totem pole is going, like you're here, and like I'm all the way up here.
Yeah.
And so like there's this big gap that's here.
who do I talk to that can make a decision? you
Yes. Yes. but I think people, they misunderstand how much they can elevate their own status just by making that one change for themselves. I always tell people, you're never going to convince your boss that you deserve his job. So you are capped. Like there is a ceiling for you right
Yeah.
where your boss stops. In rare cases, a higher boss will come and swoop you up and move you to a position above your boss, but that's like less than 1% of the time.
Yeah.
And so the only way for you to elevate yourself above your boss is to leave the job you're in
Yeah.
and go somewhere else.
You do.
And I've seen people make those lateral moves who, want to stay employed, want to be that climb the corporate ladder, but they have to jump to different companies to make it happen.
Yeah.
Whereas the people I know who, like you, have quit their job, started their own business, and then the business ended up getting acquired, they merged with someone, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, you're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of this company,
Yeah.
and when they bought me, I became an executive, and I'm like right at the CEO or below
Right.
the CEO
Yeah.
in the pecking order.
Yeah.
And all the investors respect me because they bought my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm the future of whatever company is there.
Which sometimes can be a heavy burden because the expectations are there that
Yes.
you know a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily know, right?
Here, Steve.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I
Rob, how's
appreciate
that
it.
cab, by the way?
I love it. Yeah, yeah. It's like, not to get into too much whiny, but I like it's not sweet. It's just like a lot of tannin at the end.
A lot of tannin. Good,
So
good
snobby.
flavor.
Yeah,
Stop it.
no, I love it. That's
None of this talking wine is a snobby. The
Yeah.
snobby
That's
people are the
right.
snobby people. We
I
know
came
they
here
are.
There we
looking for
go.
tannin. I didn't tell you that, and you still delivered. So
You said the first thing you said, you like cab stop. So
That's
I know,
true.
I know what you
Yeah.
like. That's,
There we go.
if there's a cab drinker who doesn't like tannins, I don't think they like
Yeah.
cabs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I appreciate it.
There are some, they exist,
Yeah.
but they're not the norm for sure.
Oh man. Yeah, I think it is. There's a lot of expectations that come with being introduced, say, to investors as the CEO,
Yeah.
right? So if you're gonna elevate your status, like you just said, it's incumbent upon you to actually have done your homework and be the expert in your business, because they'll sniff that out right away.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would push back on in terms of what you said, if you're going to start a business and you're looking to elevate your status, you cannot be a solopreneur, right? You have to actually have a business that you've invested in, and you have some staff to where you're not the only doer, because people also sniff that out immediately. And it's like, CEO of what, right? Like, what kind of strategy are you working on? So
Yeah.
So I think that it's like I don't know if like elevating your status is the reason to go out and start the business, but it will be a byproduct of you starting that business if indeed you're an expert in it,
Yeah.
you have some investable capital, you're gonna build a team, and you guys are gonna actually make a splash in your space. All of those
I agree with
things I
that.
think have to be true in order
Yeah.
for you to actually accomplish
That's
that part of
true,
it.
but there's also a straight line to where you are and where you want to go. If I'm meeting you and you're the sales executive, I know your next step is like sales manager and like you have to work your way up that way.
Yeah.
But when you introduce me to yourself as I'm the CEO of this company, even though I sniff out today that you're a 2-person shop,
Yeah.
you know, but I know that your potential, if you're successful, can be to scale overnight to 20 people where all
Yeah.
of a sudden like you are here.
Yeah.
And you're already on my ones to watch list because you've positioned yourself
That's
in
true.
a place that you don't have a ceiling. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the mindset of the best way for me to have security in my career and to do well is to stay in the world that I know, not like jump off a cliff, but like I'll take these progressive steps. When if they truly understood how much the propensity was for their life to change by launching out and starting their own shop, doing whatever it is they've been classically trained in. For you, it was sales in this like talent creation model of recruiting. But for a lot of people, they've been trained in something, and after a decade of doing it, they can go into management, or they could set out to find a way to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
And now they remove that ceiling and they put themselves in a position to get luckier. Like we always talk about, you get lucky because you're positioned well and you're
Yeah.
prepared. But people don't look at it that way. I've just seen so many people's lives changed by starting their own business.
Yeah.
Even more so than them investing in the stock market, investing in real estate. The ones who have started their own business just put themselves on a trajectory to be so much more than even they ever imagined. Like,
Right.
think about like your feelings as you're thinking about leaving your job to go and become the founder of HTD Talent.
Yeah.
Like, what did that feel like when you're leaving behind? What was your salary? $350,000 what you were making
Right, yeah.
at that job? And you leave that to go to a job that you know you can't pay yourself that.
No.
You know, taking an
Take a
extreme
huge
risk.
pay cut. Yeah.
At 32 years old,
Yeah.
33, something along those lines.
But don't you think for every person who goes out and starts the business and completely changes their life and is wildly lucky / successful, there's a few people who totally screw everything up.
Yes.
And you don't end up talking to those people because they kind of weed themselves out. They don't hang out in the circle anymore after they bail out, right? Like, you go to an entrepreneur's networking event or a happy hour or an event that's put on by whatever, an organization, you're only seeing the ones who are still in the game. And over the years, I've met a few that have fallen out of the game. And they'll tell you about the second mortgage on their house or the empty 401k when they're 50 years old for a business that never panned out for them.
Yeah.
So I kind of see it differently.
But
I
if
tell
you're
so many people.
If you're someone, have you ever met anyone at those events that got knocked out of the game that you thought, there's no way you're not successful? Or are those the people that never stood a chance in the first place?
Yes.
Where you're like, you tell me you're the
Yes.
CEO, and I'm kind of like, what? Dude, you need to go get your job back, okay?
So this is,
Because if you're dumb enough to mortgage your house
Yeah.
for it
Yeah.
and go get yourself in debt for something that's not already working,
but yeah, did you have
it took in the first place? Do you
what-
even belong in those circles to
Yeah.
begin with, is what I'm asking.
did you jump off into the water or did you bring the boat up close to the dock
Yeah.
and step off? Right? And there's a big difference between those. So yeah, I don't disagree at all there. The people who fail, a lot of times you could have told. It's not too often that I talk to people like that where they were actually subject matter experts in their space.
Yeah.
And they put some of their own money behind it as well. The stories I've seen, and this is anecdotal, but the stories that I've seen that have failed is typically you have a novice with someone else's money who decides now's their time to go ahead and strike out and let's see if we can make something out of nothing. And they don't know what's even going to be involved.
Yeah.
And what do they say in Reddit? The paper hands. The weeks. They fall out. They fall out. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard to look at the data in any meaningful way because the people that we end up talking to are the ones who made it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I hear time and time again from those that are still showing up, whether it's at investor events or whatever the case is these are the people who never gave up.
Yeah.
They never gave up, and they've all gone through some serious shit. Mm-hmm. They've been through obstacles. Everybody has a crazy story to tell. When we started our company 3 years ago, 2 weeks in, we got sued by $1 billion corporation.
Yeah.
Tried to shut us down.
Yeah.
Right? Over something that they couldn't even bring a suit about today, the way that the laws have now been realigned. But that was 2 weeks in. $1 billion company, unlimited legal budget, and here we are trying to fight them off. That's a story that feels so far in the past now, but it was a huge hurdle for us.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, that didn't deter us. We just kept going, and we've had so many setbacks since then. I mean, geez, I can count the setbacks.
Still in some of them.
When some people try to go to sleep and they're counting sheep on the ceiling, I'm counting setbacks. Yeah, this one went totally to shit. This thing fell apart. This person left us at the worst time. This investment didn't pan out, and yet here we are.
Yeah.
Still kicking. Doing great considering the circumstances of the market that we're in and all those kinds of things. So
yeah.
I don't say that. It's not patting ourselves in the back. It's just that's my mindset. I assume that most of the things that we're hoping for are going to go wrong. It doesn't stop me from being an optimist though. And
Yes.
that's the weird thing about me. I am as optimistic as they come.
Yeah. Don't you feel though, people sometimes use what if the market, fill in the blank, as a means of not starting the business when they don't understand that the safest place to be in a market downturn is the owner of your own business, not an employee in the business that you left behind. Because if the market turns down, you're an employee in the business that's left behind. What's the lift of that business to continue breaking even? Over-levered the way these companies are,
Yeah.
with private equity debt, they've got to turn a profit, they got to find a way to grow. Their means of raising capital to go invest elsewhere is to cut staff. So you're probably going to be on the chopping block. Anyone in any position, unless you're in a vital role in a market downturn. Whereas if you're in a new company that you started that does a similar type of service,
Yeah.
what's your lift in order to keep the doors open? Like you just said, it takes you 7 or 8 people to make $1 million of revenue in your niche. But how many millions does your company that you left need to make to break even and not do layoffs? Whereas you need 8 in order to make enough money to keep the doors open, if that's what the number is. That's my point.
Well,
Is that it's safer for you to put the ball in your own court if you know what you're doing,
yeah.
if you have expertise in that field, and the market turns down. Hey, I only had to make 8 placements this year.
Yeah.
That company had to make 100, and I was responsible for 20. So personally, I can make 40% of the placements I was gonna make at that company, and I'm doing better. And I have job security.
Yeah.
Because I'm in it for me, I'm working for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to, I go get those 20 placements and they can me the next day
Yeah.
to go raise some money,
The
not pay the
bar-
commissions out.
The bar is objectively lower if you start your own shop for success. Because you're smaller, you have less overhead, all the reasons we all know. But if you're looking for, if your goal is to not get laid off and to have security, then I think it depends on what role you're in as well. Because if you are in a role that's vital to the business, let's just use operations as an example. If you're concerned about being laid off from your company and you work in operations, you're not an A player. A players aren't concerned about being laid off because they are actually vital to the operations of the business. So, and this changes over time. Sometimes people work themselves out of a job because if you're an operations leader and you bring in a bunch of outsourced help that starts to chisel away at what you actually do and the impact you bring, and you're not evolving with that and bringing new strategies to the table, finding new ways to optimize the business, but you're just doing what we've been doing the whole time, then eventually the offshore team can do what you've been doing this whole time, and it's cheaper. So you're easy to fire. But if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, my belief is you can be just as successful in terms of having stable employment, in terms of doing very well for yourself. You can be just as successful working for somebody else if you make yourself indispensable.
Thank you.
So, I personally, and I know you encourage people into entrepreneurship. I actually discourage most people from entrepreneurship because there's a lot of things working against you, and you're probably not going to make it, and you're going to work a lot harder than you've ever worked before.
That's true.
And you're going to have to put a lot of things at stake, but at the same time, it's perfect for some people, and I think every entrepreneur will tell you the reason why they're unemployable, why they can't work for anybody else, and they can tell you the bosses that have wanted to fire them or whatever the case is. Like, they all have those stories. There's something a little bit off about every entrepreneur I meet that's successful. But I don't think it's for everybody.
No, I don't think it is for everybody either. And this is where I've evolved on the issue. I've learned to ask people, instead of just pushing them into entrepreneurship, it's more asking this question: what do you want in life?
Right.
Because if you tell me you want to be a multimillionaire, I can think of a couple different paths that get you there, and one that has the highest propensity and probability for that to come true if you're someone who's worth their salt. But if all you're looking for is job security because you want to go to the football game every Sunday or spend time with your kids and your family and raise your life and go to church, and I don't think that it's for you if that's what you want. But if you do want to make millions of dollars and see your life change in ways you can never imagine, there's just no better place to position than owning your own business. Now, there's a safer way to become a millionaire over time. Two safer ways to come to mind for me. One is investing long-term in the stock market and never touching it. The other one is to buy real estate and never sell it and hold it over time. And as that value increases, like, your net worth will blow up and balloon over time as long as you can keep those properties rented and you get decent, not even great, but decent at finding decent deals, getting renters into them. Maybe you're finishing them up or refurbishing them, fixing them up and flipping them. But for the most part, people that buy real estate and hold it are just guaranteed to become millionaires over time because the value of that real estate goes up.
Right.
They can always pull money out of it whenever they want to by refinancing it or doing some type of a HELOC, which gives them a lot of scalability. Those are guaranteed methods for anyone who has a long-term view, and you play it out for 30 years, 40 years. You'll become a millionaire by doing that. Buy one property every 3 years, you'll be a millionaire, in 30 years. Same in the stock market. Put $10,000 a year into the S&P 500, you'll be a millionaire in 30 years. But if you want to turn your life around and you're 25 today, or you're 27, you're 29, you're 30 today, and you want to be a millionaire by 35, what are the pathways that you have? You can win the lottery, you can inherit money, or you can start a business. And when I say start a business, I tell people, you've got to solve a problem for people in a way that other people can't do it, or you found a better way to deliver the solution to that problem, and just find a way to get distribution of that solution, and you'll be able to make it happen. But for me, these days, I used to say, as a product guy, just make a product. Like, everybody wants these products, just make a product, go and do it. I've evolved on that to now say, no, solve a problem for a specific avatar, and then make a product that solves that avatar's problem. So on day one, who is the person you're solving the problem for? And then you can get into what problems do they have, and that gives you the product ideas. Because a lot of people are trying to come up with product ideas by looking at the data and saying, 10,000 searches a month on Google or Amazon or Walmart for this item, no one's finding it, I'll go make that product. 9 times out of 10, you make that product, And by the time you go to market with it,
Yeah.
there's 10 other options of the same product because everyone saw the same opportunity.
Yeah.
They all saw the same data. These research tools are so inexpensive. They're $30 a month to use.
Yeah.
But if you actually solve a problem for a specific avatar, you're going to the next level of what most people aren't thinking about. And then you're using a research tool to validate whether or not there's enough demand for that product
Yeah.
for it to be worth your time and effort to go and actually solve the problem. I've seen so many people have their lives changed by solving problems in
Yeah.
the product business, as opposed to them just making a product
Yeah.
and then hoping they get it in front of the right people.
Yeah.
And there's a shift right now where I found the easiest way to find a product to sell, and it's by using ChatGPT and by filling a questionnaire out about your target avatar that you want to sell to.
Okay.
And then taking that questionnaire and putting it into ChatGPT, asking it to act like that persona, and then asking it questions about the problems that it has.
Yeah.
And then this is what I teach in my course that I have that most people are not taking.
Yeah.
Even if they signed up for it, they don't actually watch the material because maybe it's because it's free and they think it's not enough value inside of it, or it actually is difficult. There's a process to it that they have to do in
Yeah.
order to find some success in it. But bring it all home. I've just seen so many lives change from
Yeah.
starting a business that I think that if that's the highest probability of you becoming a millionaire, when you
Yeah.
tell me you want to become a
Yeah.
millionaire, I tell you, hey, start thinking about what kind of business you want to own.
Okay.
If that's the case,
when
to
you're
get you
talking
there.
about this, like what I'm hearing is that services companies and product companies are very different. So you've made it in product. I've made it in services. It might be that my perspective is totally just based on like, what does it take to run a good services company? Because I've been talking about like, what are you really good at? Better than most people at, and then go start a services company around that thing. What is the X factor for product? Like what does an entrepreneur who has an idea of a product that solves a problem, what do the ones have that make it, and what are the ones who don't make it lack
Yeah, it's
in
simple.
the product space?
It's simple. It's empathy. Like Gary Vee talks about
Empathy.
this, empathy.
Okay.
Because if you can put yourself into the mindset of the customer you're solving the problem for, you can create a unique solution that's just for that customer and solve a problem that
Okay.
most people don't have the ability to put themselves into the shoes
Yeah.
of that customer. And I think that in the product game, like too many people are focused on like the newest Shark Tankable like idea.
Yeah.
What they miss on Shark Tank is that each of the people that made a product that came to Shark Tank, they were either solving a problem for themselves or for someone that they knew.
Yeah.
And they created this product that didn't exist because they had a problem and there was no way to solve it. And so they created a product to solve it
Okay.
with a person in mind. And empathy is very
Interesting.
easy if you're doing it for a problem that you have because you're
Yeah.
trying to get inside yourself. Like, how do I solve
Yeah.
this for me? How do I solve this for my wife, for my kid, for my family? You see so many product ideas that come out of that.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that make it on the TV. But if you can become surgical at getting into the mindset of a target avatar that maybe you don't have access to or you don't know,
Yeah.
and ones that other people don't have access to or know either, then you can tap into an entire market of people that like have problems that are not being solved. And
Yeah.
I found the hands down, like the easiest way to do this is to go and grab the person who's in the avatar that you want to sell to and pay them for their time to sit down and fill out a questionnaire with you.
Okay.
What are your goals? What's holding you back?
Yeah.
What problems do you have? What
Okay.
scares you at nighttime? Like what motivates you? And then to build your products or even your services off of that person's questionnaire and then having ChatGPT act like that person. Because now, if you fill the questionnaire out right, you get access to that person 24/7.
Yeah.
And the big thing that I see is companies that spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars and they haven't done the market research that's commensurate with them spending that level.
Well, that
of
is their
spend,
market research,
right?
They're spending that money to test the market.
They're testing it out.
and you're
Instead of
doing it
going
for
to
a fraction of the price.
well, it's the simplest way to go and talk to, for instance, I want to sell to hotels and vacation rental managers my little soaps and shampoos.
Yeah.
The easier thing for me to do is not to go and test it and see what they click on,
Yeah.
but to pay a couple of general managers and a couple of vacation rental management companies, hey, can I pay you $100 an hour for your time? I just want to sit down and have a conversation and fill out this questionnaire of 17 questions. And then when I'm done with that, I'm just going to upload that into ChatGPT. And whenever I want to talk to that vacation rental manager or that hotel
Yeah.
general manager, I just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, act like general manager Todd or
Yeah.
vacation rental manager Sally.
Yeah.
And I get to ask them these questions. And it's remarkable how close the answers get once you understand their motivations.
Yeah.
How do
Okay.
they get benefited? How do they get rewarded?
Yeah.
How do they keep their job? What scares them about their job? When you understand those core things, and then you delve into, okay, what problems does this person have?
Yeah.
That's how you can do that very easily on scale.
Okay. So
and
the average
make it happen.
the average product entrepreneur who fails hasn't done the research with their primary customer, their ideal customer, or is it, are you saying that it's more of the problem that they chose to solve is not a real problem that people actually have?
Okay, it's actually much more simple.
Okay.
When somebody fails in a product business, what I see, and this is like 95+% of the time from talking to people who have products they aren't doing well, looking for an investor to come in and help them out, it's actually that they don't have a low enough price for what they're paying for a product to sell it for what a customer is willing to pay
Yeah.
to solve the problem that they know about. That's
okay.
the most common issue
Okay.
with product entrepreneurs. And what I find is that when I start to ask them questions, they never did a planning process at all.
Okay.
They never sat down and looked at, here's what I can pay for it, here's the cost to ship it here if it's not from the US on ocean freight or air freight, and then I'm gonna send it somewhere so it can be fulfilled. I have to have a platform that I can list it on, then sell it to someone and then ship it to that person.
Okay.
Oh, and I probably have to advertise that product to get someone to see it in the first place.
Okay.
And all of those costs together, do I know before I start that I can be profitable on the back end of it?
Yeah.
Not just profitable, I wanna know that I can make a 30% margin on that product
Yeah.
when I'm done with it.
Right.
Nobody does that process. Here's what happens
Okay.
instead. They will create their product, get all excited about the bells and whistles it needs to have, and they're solving a problem for people.
Yeah.
And then they get the product in, they'll get it to a fulfillment center, and they're ready to sell it, and that's the first time that they start thinking about, hey, how much money am I gonna make when this sells? They thought enough to know what price they're gonna sell it for.
Yeah.
They did enough market research to say, oh, other people sell it for this. But they never go the next step to say, and if it sells for this, I'm going to make X number of dollars, because they're not doing the harder work that requires a bit more of a barrier to go over, where
Yeah.
it's, hey, based on the size and weight of this, it's gonna cost me this much money to get it from a fulfillment center to a customer. And it's
Okay.
so simple to do. The information is out there,
Yeah.
but they're not looking for it.
Okay.
So then they find out when they've gone and gotten this commoditized item that they think they can sell for this price, they try to sell and get in front of people, and they're actually losing money because they're advertising to get in front of customers, and then
Okay.
they go negative on the product, and then they realize, oh shit, I should have thought about all this in the very beginning.
Okay.
I never would have started with this product. This is a
Yeah.
bad product idea based on that. And what I want them to do is to do the product selection and validation process in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you can just plan ahead and think through, I know about how much it's gonna weigh,
Okay,
what's gonna
yeah.
cost to do, and see, let that be your litmus test for whether or not you move forward with the product.
Okay. So is there?
On top of that, it's people that are not solving a problem, but for the
Yeah.
most part, they just don't plan.
Okay.
And they lose $10,000 and say, oh, Amazon is shit, you
Yeah.
know, or Shopify is
Nobody can make money selling on Amazon.
It's terrible, it's a scam.
Amazon knocks off everybody that starts to do well.
Yep.
So is there like a framework or a best practice in terms like top line, my margin has to be this, and then like these are the things that I'm gonna hit on the way,
Yeah.
or is it just
I'll give you a very
product by
simple,
product?
simple framework. Take all of your costs. Don't think about advertising. Just take all of your costs that you know you're going to have
Yeah.
to make a product, get it to a customer, and sell it to them. If you don't have a 40% margin without advertising, I don't advise you move forward with that product, because you know e-commerce is only as good as you getting the product in front of people.
Yeah.
And you're listing on search engines like Walmart, Amazon, Google. So if people don't see you, they're never going to buy it in the first place. You can solve the
Yeah.
best problem, but no one sees you.
Yeah.
So what you need to know is that you have enough margin that you can put 40% of the cost of the product or the sale price into it,
Yeah.
and that's how you break even.
Got it.
And if you can't do
Got
that, don't move forward with the product.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so simple, but people don't do that.
No.
You know?
How we doing?
Just gonna ask you the same question.
Hey, I know we're already on camera, but would you take a photo of us on that camera?
Yes.
Because it'd be really cool to send our wives. And I don't want you to go into the water, by the
You're
way.
good, you're good.
But
I was gonna sneeze.
There we go.
Just like this.
yeah, that's perfect.
All right.